international students are different. International students coming from Europe don't have necessarily to the extent as an African student would have. First of all, the Europeans have a strong exchange rate than the dollar, you know? So that means that the parents would be paying like as if they were paying for their kids' fees back home. But like, and then you look at the demographics of the schools. Majority of the students are probably from South Korea, which has a weird exchange rate. But then Europeans, and then there's not really much African students. And then you ask yourself, but why? I mean, duh, because there's the exchange rate, an economical thing that is very mature. I mean, like if you divert the fees that you're paying here, which is like $35,000 at home, that's like $500,000 rands. I mean, parents put together don't even make that. Then African students are seriously marginalized, you know, when it comes to that, and that's just honesty, you know. It's easier for Europeans to study here. And then you still have immigration laws, which makes it easy for European students to come and, you know, maybe like come a year before you start studying or 6 months before. I mean, with African students, you have to prove that you have money. And then the money must have been in your account for like 6 months before. So shit like that doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I mean, it serves its purpose, but then like who benefits from it? Is really education accessible to everyone?
Like the system is really weird. And one time I went to the financial aids and to ask, because I have like really good GPA and stuff towards all my like 3 years, and they have told me, oh, your scholarship is determined due to like the when you before you went to the school, so there's no way you can make get more scholarship even though you have really good GPA and stuff. Yeah, so that was very surprising. And the facility in my department is not good, really good at all. And I feel like I'm paying so much money getting little things, so I feel it's like not very fair. There's not a lot of scholarships available for international students. First of all, we can't qualify for financial aid. Our tuition we have to pay out of state, and it's so expensive. And some of the scholarships are only if you are a resident or you live in a specific state. We can qualify basically only for international scholarships and only for department scholarships.
I came here thinking maybe I could find some illegal work. And I started going around, and whenever I'd see someone who'd look like an immigrant, I'd be like, do you have any work here? And I remember going to a falafel shop and asking them if they were hiring. First I got into a conversation about where they were from, and they said they were from Egypt, and I said I'd been to Egypt, and I tried to say my 1 or 2 words that I know in Egyptian to try to impress them. So all in all, my attempts to work illegally failed miserably, and I decided to find a job at school.
Look at the American education system. I mean, like new schools probably. I mean, use like $35,000 to $50,000, and then city college is like 5,000 to 11,000. But then there's a difference, you know. And then you still find private high schools, which are like $50,000, and then public schools which are like closing down all over the city, and which are like cheaper than that. And then at the same time, I mean, like you see with the new school, they'll tell you that like, well, if you register late, you might not make the class because the class will be full because it has a limit of like maybe 12 to 15 students, you know. And then the other schools were like, you know, there is no limit, you know. But then there's a difference because then that means that if you can afford to go to the school that's more expensive, you have a chance of learning much more than if you go in a class of 45 because the teacher doesn't really give a fuck about you, and then you don't really care much about the teacher. But here you are forced, you know, to be interactive, and really if you want to do the class, then why don't you do it? Because you have a one-on-one basis amongst the whole class, you know. So the systems are changing, and then now it's gotten to a point where, first of all, it operates in a capitalist system where money is the order of the day. I mean, if you have it, you know, you get what you want. If you don't have it, you're screwed. So it's already built that way. The foundation is already established. I mean, I don't think it's going to change.
But basically, before I got here, I contacted so many people in the school to find a job. I contacted the people here at the library, I called them, and I was actually told that this year they weren't really hiring international students, which I found very odd because we're already not allowed to work. And then if there's jobs at school that are not available to us, um, it's quite frustrating. And in a way, it's kind of annoying because, I mean, I understand that people who are citizens here obviously should have the right to work at school, but they have the option to work off campus if they choose. We don't have that option. So for there to be school jobs that we're not really considered for, I think is quite unfair, because our options are already limited.
I think they just need to review the whole thing because it really doesn't make sense. Because they know that New York, first of all, New York State pays more into the federal tax bill than any other state. People in New York spend money, and students, if they come to New York, they spend money. But it doesn't make sense to spend money where you don't have a way of making money. So where do you get the money to spend? You know, I mean, that doesn't make sense, and you can't work outside of school unless you take the risk of working illegally, and then you take the risk of losing your visa and shit like that. Sorry, but it doesn't make sense. It's not feasible. I mean, how you gonna survive? So that means you must have a cash cow somewhere where you're gonna go and get cash. But where do they get money? Because first of all, coming from South Africa, we have the exchange rate, which is now it's changing to like 7.57. But for the past month, 2 months, it was like 8.12. So I mean, like for my dad who makes probably around about 3,000 to 4,000 rands, which probably doesn't even come to $500. So how do you close the gap?
I know that our department does merit scholarships, but I do think it would be good if they considered the need element in those scholarships, if they had specific programs just for international students, to take into account different economic situations and different values of currency.
If student needs help and they are hardworking, they should be able to support them, in order to, I mean, like, to make their future better, because they work hard. For sure, in the future they will be really good.
If actual governments or people financial aid offices took their time and studied how expensive it is for someone from Latin America to live in the US and to work here, I think they should be a little bit, they should be a little, not flexible, but I mean like kind of, they should be more, I don't know, I think the word I want to say compassionate.
Well, I think the idea on relying to someone else to change things for you is absurd. The idea that maybe the school system will change. It can only change if people want it to change and people have a collective view on changing. But then I don't see that happening because people are weird. Human beings are really weird because some people like the idea of being superior than others. And if it means that they should have superior education than other people, they should be better educated than other people. And if there's ways of doing that, people will pursue that. The thing is that the moment we see ourselves as like, not different, then I think that's when we really have a chance towards getting to that, because then it doesn't matter, I mean, you see yourself as the other person, but it's not like that. There's classes. There's the middle class, and then there's poor people who no one really like gives a damn about, and then there's the upper rich, who see everybody else as their servants, and then you're gonna tell the upper rich kid that he must go to the same school as a kid from the projects, and be like, hello, that is war.